Okay, hello everyone. I'm gonna preface this lecture with an apology. My parents' bank accounts got hacked yesterday, and so since of course my bank account is the bank account that they started for me when I was like 12, mine also got hacked. So I spent most of yesterday working with banks and cops and things, so I didn't really get to practice this all that much. So if I'm just like reading my lines, I'm sorry. Anyways, so it's the end point is that it's all fine. I just have to go and restart my life. That's great. Anyways, so most of y'all should know me by now. I'm Taylor. So I'm doing an overarching mentoring lecture or series with the faculty to try and help improve mentoring capabilities for the faculty. But part of mentoring is actually menteeing. So this lecture is called Mentoring and Menteeing. So I know that maybe some of y'all have had less than ideal mentorship relationships while you've been here at County. Hopefully with your work and with my work with the faculty, we'll be able to build relationships and make better mentoring for everyone. Okay, so today we're gonna talk about mentoring life cycles, and then menteeing, which I'm going to make that an actual word. Okay, so bless you. So the ACGME and the LCME both place a very high value in mentoring. In fact, to be credentialed by either institution, you have to have a formal mentoring program. However, this is lucid interpretation and enforcement, and basically is nothing more than a checkbox. So it's not really beneficial to either the mentors or the mentees because it just has to exist in some capacity. For residents, mentoring is such a fantastic resource. Mentoring is often cited as an important support mechanism, and it may be particularly applicable in times of great change and distress. If that sounds familiar to anyone, like now. Many meta-analyses have showed that mentored individuals have higher satisfaction with their careers, with their jobs, they have higher pay, they're more likely to get published, and are more likely to get promoted. So if something is so clearly beneficial, why is this not a standard practice? So I think first we must ask, what is mentoring? So when you think of mentoring, I know I used to think of mentoring this way. You probably think of some old dude in a toga talking to some younger dude in a smaller toga. In a sense, you're not too far off. So the word mentor came from ancient Greek. In the Odyssey, when Odysseus left for the Trojan War, he knew he was going to be gone for a long time. Maybe not 20 years that he was actually gone for, but he knew that his son, Telemachus, would need someone to teach him and guide him while his father was away. So Odysseus left his entrusted friend, mentor, with the task of teaching his son and helping him to grow. So his name became synonymous with the relationship that develops between a more experienced person and a more junior person in a given field. Notice that I didn't give any ages. While traditionally, yes, the mentor is older, it's more about experience. Recently, a faculty member here, who will remain nameless, but was one of the faculty that taught me, approached me to mentor them on faculty development. Now I'm far from an expert, but as part of my master's, which I'm finally done with, thank you. As part of my master's, I had to take several classes, several semester-long classes about leadership and faculty development. So I know a little bit more than some other people. So I'm going to mentor this faculty member in this area. So now mentoring can be a lot of things. Think about any of the relationships that you've had with mentors over the years. This might have been a high school coach, maybe it was a guidance counselor, or maybe it was someone that you sought out in an effort to make a relationship with. Now, all of these things here you see on the screen should happen in a true mentoring relationship. The main point of a beneficial mentoring relationship, though, is that both mentor and mentee benefit from the relationship somehow. If you have someone who just calls you once a year to make sure you're not dead, that's not a mentor. If you have someone who just talks at you and gives you advice that you don't really need, that's not a mentor. That's not to say that true mentoring doesn't give advice and doesn't check in on you to make sure that you're doing okay. But if that is the sum total of your relationship with this person, they're not your mentor. In my opinion, a mentor will do all of the things that we said up here. In addition, they will affect change. The most important part of the mentor relationship is that they will cause change in your life. A true mentoring relationship is an active process that requires effort on both people. A mentor will make connections for their mentee, will introduce them to people, will put them as authors on papers, will give them motivation to set goals, to put them onto committees that they can then lead and chair someday. So the sum totality of a good mentoring relationship is in fact change. So next, we'll talk about the mentoring life cycle. A lot of what I'm about to talk about may seem self-explanatory for those of us who exist and have relationships with other humans. But if that is true, why isn't a mentoring relationship more common? So in the same way that humans, bugs, everyone has some sort of life cycle, so does mentoring. We'll go over in depth in the following slides. This is just to illustrate that it is okay to lose mentors. Some mentors you'll have for lifelong, but some you only need because you need help in one subject area, one matter, one topic. That doesn't mean that you're no longer friends with that mentor and you can't ask them for advice later down the road. That also doesn't mean that at some point later in your life, you can ask them to be your mentor again. Every person has their own experiences and they may not be able to offer you guidance on every topic. Mentees of color often try to choose other mentors of color, which is not wrong. It is presumable that they will have things in common, share common backgrounds, common ideals. However, try and choose mentors of different race and gender as well, because that will give you the most well-rounded experience. I currently have 3 mentors of varying skin colors and genders. 2 are here at Downstate and 1 is through my master's. They are all teaching me different things based on their own individual experiences, and I can feel that I'm growing in different ways based on their individual tutelages. So phase 1, clarifying expectations. So the first thing you should do in any good mentor relationship is you need to build rapport. When you're initially paired up or you've sought someone out, there should be some individual time of getting to know you. In the same way as dating, you need to get to know the other person first. This will show if you are adequate partners for each other. If you have nothing in common, it is going to be difficult to work with them for however long you are trying to do so. So depending on what relationship you want, meet for coffee or an office or whatever, but don't think long-term just yet. First, try and see if you mesh. Share backgrounds, share experiences, passions, share your career visions, share what you think are your strengths and weaknesses, and whatever you think will contribute to a meaningful relationship. Studies have been done that demonstrate useful tools and self-assessments that you can use and ask each other in these initial kind of getting to know you steps. And I can provide you with them if you email me later. But if you realize that you don't mesh with this person, that's fine. Move on, no hard feelings. You're out, 1 coffee date, no big deal, right? So next then is contracting. This is a little bit more formal. This is where you discover that you like each other, that you mesh well. This is where you sit down, and this is where you set your expectations for each other. What goals do you have? How do you want to accomplish them? When do you want to accomplish them? Basically, you name the ground rules in the terms of the relationship. Can I text you at midnight, or do you only want emails during business hours? Do you mind if I ask for advice outside of the medical world, or is our relationship just going to be about medicine? Can you make sure that everything that we talk about, everything advice, stays confidential and doesn't go outside of us unless I give you permission? These kind of things in this initial meeting are very important because it basically sets the tone for the entire relationship. And so if you mess this up or if you don't set these rules, then basically going forward, it's hard to kind of say that, oh, you messed up or I messed up because you didn't really set the ground rules to begin with. So phase 2, it's productive phase. So the next phase starts with direction setting. Now this is typically achieved with a mentoring plan. You can go into Google and download templates that are like written out and are very detailed or specific, however much you want, or can be more vague if you want. Now this is obviously a cartoon, so it's a little bit of a caricature, but I put it here on purpose for 2 reasons. First, it implies that this is a journey over time. Look, starting 2000 to 2040. This is not something that will happen overnight. This is not next month, well, I'll meet and all of my goals will be accomplished next month. No, this is something that you and your mentor will be doing over time for a long time. And 2, this is a continuous cycle. See how each of these objectives work. So you have annual objectives 2000 to 2010 that go to strategic goals of 2010. Then you have annual objectives 2010 to 2020 that go to the goals of 2020. So this is a continuous cycle that you're working on with your mentor. So every time you meet, you should once again go over your plan, go over your goals, make sure that both of you are fulfilling your goals and your objectives and make sure that's also still what you want going forward. Next is progress making. This is the actual nuts and bolts of the relationship. This is when you've gotten all the pre-work out of the way, you understand each other, you understand how you want to interact with each other, you understand what's going to happen going forward. So go do it. This is when the mentor will make contacts, will advise you on how to get articles published, will hear your lecture and give advice. This is when the hard work is done from both sides. Hopefully you will decide how often your mentor will meet, whether it's weekly, monthly, every 6 months, whatever it is. And so you'll use your meetings to make sure that both of you are staying on task and staying focused and accomplishing the goals that you initially set out to set or to accomplish. So phase 3 is maturation and closure. So over time, you'll grow in your field, you'll grow in confidence, and there may come a point that you don't necessarily need your mentor as much. Your relationship will change, and you will need different things from each other as the relationship matures. You can reset the ground rules. You can rechange the relationship depending on what you want. But probably most common is that you realize you just have different passions that are no longer aligned. Junior physicians don't always know what area in the world of medicine they want to go into. And so it's very common that you change your practices and change your thoughts as you're working. For instance, let's say that you think that what Dr. Palladino does is the coolest thing ever. He goes all over the world. He works with the American military to work on trauma and surgery and things. He goes to the Middle East at least once a year, if not to like Germany and to other places that have significant US naval base or military bases. And so you approach him, he says, yes, we'll mentor, and you go to work. So you go with him to the Middle East, you go with him to Germany, you work on some papers. And at the end of 6 months, you realize that what you loved about his job wasn't necessarily the trauma, it was the travel. You realize you're much more interested in capacity building and creating sustainable change for impoverished communities than you are with trauma. That's okay, that's not a problem. Make sure that you're open and honest with your mentor and you talk about what's going on. If your decisions, if your life goals and careers aspirations change, tell him or her. It's possible that he or she has a contact in whatever this new area is, and then he can make an introduction for you to make you obviously the happiest that you can be. Last step is closure. So this can come one of two ways. Either you planned on an end date, like when you're initially talking with your mentor, you say, we will be mentor-mentee until I graduate from residency. Or it just kind of naturally reaches the end that you're supposed to accomplish. Either way, at the end of the meeting, review your plan, review the however many years of mentoring plan that you had. Did it work? Were there unexpected problems? Could your mentor have done something better? Could you have done something better as a mentee? The most important part is that you leave the relationship positively. Once again, you may need this person in the future. Most commonly, this person doesn't become your mentor again, but you obviously trust them because you've been working with them for however long, that you may come to them later in the future if you're changing jobs and you want advice, or if there's some political problem that's happening in your department and you want sage wisdom from this person who you've known for many years and trust. Though you're not actively working together, the relationship can still be beneficial for both of you. So styles of mentoring. So far we pretty much only discussed traditional one-on-one mentoring. There are other kinds as well. I'm not going to go into too much detail about any of these. This is probably more for faculty to know about how to be better mentors. But it's good for you all to know that these things exist because taking on a mentor is a significant time commitment. So if you're able to come up to with your possible mentor and say, I understand it's a time commitment, let's vary our relationship in these ways to basically make it more helpful for you and me to work together. So after one-on-one, we have group mentoring. This is basically our family mentoring groups. I love it when I work with all of my mentors or all my mentees come together because typically what happens is that you have people of varying levels of expertise that all come together and all kind of work on each other to achieve a common goal. When I have dinner to look at a test that I typically don't talk all that much. I basically let my mentees talk together and they work together to meet their common goals. Next is peer mentoring. This is kind of the same principle behind the big sib, little sib that we give you when you start residency. Now, neither of you are necessarily experts in any particular topic or field, but with what experience you know together, you work together in order to accomplish your common goal. Next is e-mentoring or distance learning or mentoring, especially in the time of Zoom. This is obviously a newer field that's kind of developing. If the world expert on whatever topic you want lives in Australia, that's obviously not really a problem anymore, right? You can send them an email, you can send them a Zoom link, and you can decide that you want to be enter this mentoring relationship with each other. It's obviously gonna be a little bit different than in person, but you can achieve some similar, if not the same results. Next is reverse mentoring. It's kind of like what I'm doing with the faculty that approach me. This is more common if there's there's an educator who's having trouble connecting with their Gen Z students. So they approach a younger faculty member that says, teaches them how to use Kahoot or how to use YouTube or how to use some other different lecturing or different teaching styles that they weren't initially taught when they were in college. And lastly is speed mentoring, which is actually something I learned just for this talk because of this picture. Basically, it's speed dating. So you get a group of mentors that kind of sit down and a group of people who want to be mentored. And they basically talk with each other in 5 to 10 minute increments. And the point is basically to try and get as many mentors together or as many mentoring relationships together as can be done in a short period of time. Okay, so that was a lot of information. We're halfway through. Take a breather. If you need to stand, stretch, do whatever. You can. JFK's got it. He's doing some stretching. I will say that for most of you, probably you are all in more of a mentee situation than a mentor situation. So while that last stuff was important to know, basically about the nature of mentoring in general, what follows next is basically how to be a good mentee. So this is really what you should pay attention to, okay? So stretch, breathe, take a second, and we'll start. So what makes a good mentee? There are many examples in the relationship of a good mentor-mentee relationship in popular culture, from Luke and Yoda to Luke and Obi-Wan. Notice he had 2 mentors that had different skin colors, just saying. To Coach Bombay and the Mighty Ducks, or even to Chef Cousteau and Remy the Rat. Most often you see how great the mentor is, but how often do you focus on the mentee? Let's watch this clip with arguably the best mentor of all time. Oh no, where'd he go? Right here? No. No, I found it. It's right here. There it is.
What? I'm being your goddamn slave is what I'm being, man. Now we made a deal here. So you're supposed to teach and I'm supposed to learn, remember? For 4 days I've been busting my ass. I don't learn a goddamn thing.
You learned plenty.
I learned plenty. I learned how to sand your decks, maybe. I wash your car, paint your house, paint your fence. I learned plenty, right?
Not everything is as simple.
Oh, bullshit. I'm going home, man.
Daniel-san. Daniel-san.
What?
Come here. Show me sand floor.
I can't move my arm, all right? What are you doing? What are you... Ow! Ow, what are you doing?
Now show me sand floor.
How did you do that?
Shut up!
Sand the floor.
Hey, stand up. Show me sand floor. Sand floor. Sand floor. Big circle. Sand floor. Sand floor. Now show me wax on, wax off. Hey.
Wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax on. Hey, wax on, wax off. Concentrate. Look at my eye. Left hand. Thumb inside. Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off. Show me penta fence. Up, down. down, up, down. Other side, look eye, always look eye. Show me paint the house, side. Back to wrist. Side. Yes. Show me wax on, wax off. Cat! Show me interfits. Cat! Show me side to side. Show me sand or floor. Wait. Look eye. Always look eye. Come back tomorrow.
Okay, so Ralph Macchio was an awful mentee, right? He was loud and complained about Mr. Miyagi refusing to basically see the bigger picture. And Mr. Miyagi had to tell him about 20 times, right? Look eye, always look eye. Had to constantly remind him about the bigger picture and what was going on. So next time you watch Star Wars, look at how whiny Luke is and what his mentors had to do to get him to achieve greatness. So we will end with tips for being an effective mentee. I have all these resources for you in print, so if you want them, just text me or email me and I'll send them to you. First and probably most important though, be prepared. Remember, this is a reciprocal relationship. If you show up just expecting to take knowledge the mentor has, that's little more than stealing. Come prepared with a list of questions, thoughts, ideas. Bring your mentoring map every single time you meet and make sure that you're staying along the pre-made path. If your mentor signs you an article, read it. If your mentor asks you to fill out a questionnaire, do it. Remember, this is a give and take. You have to put in just as much effort as your mentor puts into you. Next, establish open communication. Once again, in your planning phase, make sure that you both know how you want the relationship to be structured. Remember that even if your mentor is the chair of the department, she was once where you are. You need to feel comfortable being open and honest. If you're too scared to bring up problems because of the hierarchy of medicine, you will not be able to work together. You'll likely end up just being their lackey with no real gain for yourself. Make a promise to be sincere and open with your mentor. Don't be afraid to tell them bad news or give them feedback on how they can be better. Remember, most of your mentors are learning how to do this as well throughout the course of my series. So try and work and grow together by being open and communicating effectively. Next, establish trust. In your planning stage, make sure that you build a bond of trust with each other. Guarantee confidentiality and stick to it. Listen when your mentor talks. Encourage your mentor just as much as they encourage you, and share in your experiences together. Divulging things in your relationship breaks the bonds of trust and hinders the open part of your relationship. If either partner has to be guarded about what they're saying, there cannot be any mutual relationship that grows. Be flexible, allow mistakes. Everyone here is going to be learning how to be better in this relationship. Like I said, you and faculty throughout the next few months. There are going to be mistakes, there are going to be pitfalls. That is part of having open communication and trust that you can work around problems together. Additionally, realize that if the chair of the department is your mentor likely he or she has lots of constraints on their time. So if they have to cancel a meeting with you last minute, this is not a reflection on you. You are likely going to be a priority in their life. However, they have many priorities. So work around their schedule, help them to help you. Another benefit of Zoom is you can likely set up times at night for 30 minutes. So that way they can make all of their meetings during the day and then you can have one-on-one time together without any distraction. Next, resolve differences. You want to find the differences? I actually don't think there are any. Can you define one?
Yeah, the dash and ice cream.
Oh, there is. Anyways, resolve your differences. This is likely to be an ongoing process, right? And part of an open and honest communication, make sure that if something goes wrong, you give constructive feedback on how to be better. I know that feedback is a lecture of its own, but remember that anytime you give feedback, be expected that your mentor will also give you feedback about the same thing. Use this part of your relationship to work on problem solving and negotiating strategies, and use it as an opportunity for both of you to grow together. Next, participate fully. Don't half-ass anything. If your mentor gives you a chapter to write and you just phone it in, that will not only make more work for your mentor, but it will also make your mentor not give you topics or things to do later in the relationship. If your mentor thinks you're lazy, it is unlikely that your mentor will give you more tasks or make connections for you because they're ashamed of you or they're embarrassed by you, right? That's obviously not great. Lastly, reflect. John Dewey was an educator in the United States at kind of the late 1800s. He's kind of thought to be the father of the educational reform. So he says, we don't learn from experiences, we learn from reflecting on the experience. Every meeting, every interaction, when it is over, reflect on what you discussed. Internalize the advice or how your mentor did something. For instance, if you're invited to a committee meeting that your mentor chairs, watch how your mentor leads the meeting, how she responds to problems, how he or she gives praise, how he or she stays on topic, and everything else that your mentor does. Then spend time thinking and reflecting on these things. Look for patterns that may emerge. This is the only way that you'll be able to internalize them and apply them to your life. If you need a journal to write things down in, get one. This should be done within a few hours of your interaction, otherwise it might be lost forever. Okay, that was a lot. So here's Potato. He's huge now. He can stand on his hind legs and lick my mustache without me bending down. Here he is on the right, practicing his Princess Leia impersonation for May the 4th. So, any questions? Anyone over Zoom? I don't know how many people are on Zoom. No. Okay.
I don't have a question. This was an excellent talk, Taylor. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to add that mentorship is not just when you're a resident or a junior faculty. Basically, as your career advances, you just always can use mentors. And in this day and age of technology, you can have this is amazing. You can have mentors in Australia, in California, in Virginia, everywhere. And you always need mentorship. You can always use mentorship to get help. I have mentors everywhere. And so just it's not just limited to residency or junior faculty.
Thank you. And that's actually a very large topic of within mentoring. How do you mentor the advanced career physician or the advanced career person? It's obviously more difficult. They have more experience, but that's someone who's more advanced in their career. Basically what they end up doing is kind of doing a little bit of reverse mentoring. So all the topics that they don't quite understand, they find other faculty who are younger than them in age-wise, but not necessarily in experience, right? Once again, no one has all of the experience of everything at all times. That doesn't exist. So there clearly will be people that, even though they're older than you and probably more advanced in their career, they don't have the same specialization that you do. So it's fine if you become their mentor. Anything else? Okay, so in summary, mentoring is a rewarding process that betters both people involved. There's a mentoring life cycle that happens with every mentoring experience. And being a good mentee is just as important as being a good mentor. Remember the tips. So come prepared, establish open communication, establish trust, be flexible, resolve differences, participate fully, and lastly, reflect on what you've learned. Thank you.